Chosen one. This Tuesday is not going to move like a normal day, not in a straight line, not randomly, but like a sequence that already knows where it's going, scene by scene, moment by moment, as if something unseen pressed play and stepped back to watch it unfold. You might feel it before you understand it. A strange focus when you wake up. A sense that time is slightly heavier. Not rushed, not slow. Intentional. This is not about fear. It's about awareness. About realizing that this specific day carries weight, meaning, and timing that isn't accidental. You weren't meant to rush through it distracted. You were meant to notice it, to live inside it fully. Because this Tuesday isn't asking you to do more. It's asking you to see more. Before anything else moves forward, stay with me until the very end of this message, because every part matters more than you think. And in this moment, while your attention is here, I want you to place your warmest wishes into the comments. Say them plainly. Say them honestly. Write Amen if that's what your heart reaches for. Not as a ritual, as a release. When you do that, you're not begging the universe. You're aligning with it. You're letting what's been held inside you finally breathe. And that shift matters more than people admit. Now listen closely. This Tuesday isn't loud. It's precise. It doesn't arrive with chaos or fireworks. It arrives with clarity. With moments that seem small until later, when you look back and realize each one was placed carefully. A conversation that feels ordinary but lingers longer than expected. A delay that irritates you at first, then quietly saves you from something you never saw coming. A thought that drops into your mind uninvited, calm but firm, and refuses to leave. These aren't coincidences. They're transitions. And transitions don't announce themselves. They just happen, and only the attentive recognize them. You may notice that emotions rise and fall faster than usual. A sudden calm followed by a sharp wave of memory. Don't fight that. This day isn't here to overwhelm you. It's here to rearrange you internally, to close certain loops that have been open too long, to show you where you've been holding tension without realizing it. You don't need to analyze every feeling. Just let them pass through, like scenes changing in a film. You don't stop the movie to question the lighting. You watch. You absorb. You trust that the story is moving where it needs to go. There's something else about this Tuesday. It doesn't respond well to force. If you try to control every outcome, it will resist you. But if you move with it, if you listen more than you speak, if you pause before reacting, it opens. Doors don't slam today. They drift open quietly. Opportunities don't shout. They wait to see if you're present enough to notice them. This is a day where intuition speaks softer than usual, which is why so many people miss it. But you won't. Not if you stay grounded. Not if you slow your breathing when things feel slightly off. At some point, maybe in the afternoon or closer to evening, you may feel a strange sense of recognition, like something clicked without a sound. That's not imagination. That's alignment. That's you stepping into the correct frame of the day. When that happens, don't rush to explain it to anyone. Some things settle better in silence. Let the understanding land fully before you share it. This day is working on you in layers, not all at once. And remember this, nothing about today is wasted, even the parts that feel confusing, even the moments where you wonder why something didn't go as planned. Especially those moments. They're part of the sequence. They're the scenes that make the ending make sense later. Trust that. Stay aware. Stay open. This Tuesday is unfolding exactly the way it needs to, and you are exactly where you're supposed to be as it does. There's a shift that happens once the first half of the day passes, and most people don't notice it because they're already tired, already distracted, already thinking ahead instead of standing where they are. But this Tuesday doesn't release its meaning all at once. It waits. It lets the surface moments pass before it starts touching deeper places. You may feel slightly out of sync for a while, like your body is in one room and your thoughts are in another. That's not a problem. That's recalibration. Things are lining up internally before they line up externally. You might catch yourself replaying something from the past without intending to. A choice you made. A door you didn't walk through. Or maybe a version of yourself that feels far away now. Don't push that away. This isn't about regret. It's about contrast. About seeing how far you've come without needing to announce it. This day isn't here to judge your past. It's here to quietly separate what still belongs to you from what no longer does. Pay attention to how people interact with you today. Some will feel unusually distant. Others may suddenly feel closer, even if they say very little. Energy doesn't lie, even when words do. This Tuesday exposes alignment in subtle ways. You'll notice who listens without interrupting, who respects your silence, who drains you without meaning to. None of this requires confrontation. Awareness is enough. Recognition is enough. Not every realization needs a response. There may be a moment when you feel an urge to act quickly, to respond immediately, to say something sharp or decisive. Pause there, just for a breath. This day rewards restraint more than speed. What's meant to move will move even if you wait 10 seconds longer. What's fragile will reveal itself if you don't rush to protect it. Let people show you who they are today. Let situations show you what they're really built on. As the hours pass, you might notice a strange calm trying to settle in, even if the world around you stays loud. Don't confuse calm with emptiness. This isn't numbness. It's clarity without noise. It's the feeling of not needing to prove anything for a moment. If you feel that, don't fill it. Don't distract yourself out of habit. Sit in it, even briefly. That stillness is doing more work than you realize. This part of the day is about release, but not the dramatic kind. Not the kind that comes with speeches or endings. It's quieter than that. It's the release of unnecessary tension, of assumptions you've been carrying without checking if they're still true, of pressure that was never actually placed on you, but that you picked up anyway. Let it drop. You don't need it anymore. And if nothing obvious happens, if the day feels almost too normal, don't be fooled. Some shifts happen beneath the surface, like roots growing deeper before anything breaks through the soil. This Tuesday isn't asking you to witness fireworks. It's asking you to trust process, to trust timing, to trust that even when you can't point to a single dramatic moment, something essential is still taking shape. Stay present as the day continues. The later scenes haven't played yet. As the day moves forward, the energy changes again, almost imperceptibly, like light shifting through a window when you're not looking directly at it. This is the part where things either settle or reveal themselves. Not in dramatic ways, in honest ones. You might suddenly understand why something has been stalled in your life. Not because you weren't ready, but because the timing around you wasn't aligned yet. That realization can feel both relieving and strange at the same time. You may notice your reactions are different today. Things that would normally trigger you don't hit the same. Or they do, but you recover faster. That's not weakness fading. That's strength reorganizing. This Tuesday carries a subtle correction. It's adjusting how you respond to pressure, not by hardening you, but by grounding you, by reminding you that not everything deserves your energy, your explanation, or your emotional labor. There's also a quiet truth surfacing about direction. Not a full plan, not a clear map, just a sense of what no longer fits. Sometimes that's enough. You don't need to know exactly where you're going today. You only need to recognize what you're done carrying forward. This day gives permission without asking for justification. If something feels finished, it probably is. You don't owe anyone a detailed explanation for internal shifts. Be careful not to mistake familiarity for safety today. Some patterns feel comfortable simply because they're known, not because they're healthy. This Tuesday gently exposes that difference. You might feel a slight discomfort when repeating an old habit or thought. That's awareness knocking. You don't have to slam the door on your past. Just stop inviting it to run the room. At some point, there may be a moment of silence that feels heavier than usual. Not awkward, intentional. Maybe you're alone. Maybe you're surrounded by people. Either way, something lands in that silence. A knowing. A confirmation. It won't come with instructions. It won't come with urgency. It will just feel true. When that happens, trust it. You don't need to act on it immediately. Let it settle. Truth often needs space before it becomes movement. This part of the day is less about what you do and more about what you allow. Allowing clarity. Allowing boundaries to form without force. Allowing yourself to not have everything figured out and still feel steady. That's growth most people overlook because it doesn't look impressive from the outside. But it changes everything on the inside. The story is still unfolding. The scenes are getting quieter now, but quieter doesn't mean less important. Sometimes it means you're close to the part that stays with you long after the day ends. By now, the day has a different texture. It feels worn in, like a jacket that finally fits your shoulders instead of pulling at them. This is the part where resistance fades. Not because everything is resolved, but because you stop fighting what's already true. There's a relief in that, even if it's subtle. You may notice you're not explaining yourself as much. Not rehearsing conversations in your head. Not preparing defenses that never get used. That's not withdrawal. That's maturity settling into place. Something about this Tuesday teaches you the value of not reacting immediately. You might hear something that would normally spark a response, but instead, you let it pass through. You file it away. You observe how it feels rather than how it looks. That pause is powerful. It changes the outcome without making a scene. It keeps your energy intact. And today, your energy matters more than your opinions. You could feel slightly tired around this time, not physically, but mentally. Like you've been holding awareness for hours and it finally asks for rest. That's okay. This isn't exhaustion. It's integration. Your mind is stitching together small insights you didn't even realize you gathered. Let yourself slow down without guilt. Productivity isn't the lesson today. Presence is. There may also be a moment when you realize you don't miss something the way you thought you did. Or someone. That realization can sting for a second, then soften. It doesn't mean what you felt before wasn't real. It just means you've outgrown the need for it to define you. Growth doesn't always feel like excitement. Sometimes it feels like quiet acceptance, and that's just as meaningful. Notice how the world feels a little less urgent right now. Messages can wait. Decisions don't need to be final. This Tuesday creates space where there usually isn't any. Use it. Breathe into it. Not everything has to be solved today, for today to matter. Some days are important because they change how you approach the next one. As evening approaches, there's a sense of something having shifted without ceremony. No announcement. No clear marker. Just an internal understanding that you're not standing in the same place you were this morning. That's the kind of change that lasts, the kind that doesn't need validation. The day isn't finished yet, but the tone has softened. What comes next won't demand your attention. It will meet you where you are. As the day starts leaning toward night, everything feels slower, almost deliberately so. This is where the meaning of the day settles into your body rather than your thoughts. You may notice a deeper breath without trying, a sense that you don't need to chase anything right now. That's not giving up. That's arrival. This Tuesday wasn't meant to push you forward aggressively. It was meant to place you exactly where you could stand without bracing yourself. You might reflect on moments from earlier in the day and realize they connect in ways you didn't see at the time. A delay that protected you. A conversation that clarified more than it seemed. A choice you didn't make that now feels like the right one. These weren't random scenes. They were edits. The unnecessary parts cut out quietly so the story could flow without distraction. There's also a gentle reminder in this part of the day about trust. Not blind trust. Earned trust. The kind that comes from seeing patterns repeat until you finally believe them. You've been guided through this day more than you may want to admit. Not controlled, guided. And that distinction matters. Control suffocates. Guidance supports. Today showed you the difference without needing to explain it. You may feel less inclined to speak tonight, less interested in noise. That's not isolation, that's discernment. You're learning when silence protects your clarity, when rest preserves your strength, when stepping back actually moves you forward. Not every night needs to be filled. Some nights are meant to seal what the day opened. If doubt creeps in now, it will be softer than usual, more like a question than an accusation. Don't argue with it. Just notice it. Doubt loses power when it's acknowledged without fear. This day wasn't about eliminating uncertainty. It was about teaching you how to stand steady even when certainty isn't complete. By this point, you may sense that something is finished. Not dramatically ended. Completed. Like a chapter that closes itself once you've understood the lesson. You don't need to mark it. Life already did. There's one more part still ahead, and it matters more than it appears. What remains isn't about the day itself, but about what you carry forward from it. By the time this day fully lets go of you, there's a quiet knowing that stays behind. Not a conclusion you can summarize, not a lesson you'd post or explain. Just a steady sense that something inside you has shifted into a more honest position. This is where Tuesday stops being a day and becomes a reference point. Later on, without realizing it, you'll think back to it and say, that's when things started to change. Not outwardly at first, in how you respond, in what you tolerate, in what you no longer chase. There's a clarity now that doesn't need constant reassurance. You're not searching for signs anymore because you recognize when something aligns without fireworks. You understand that real movement often happens quietly, almost privately. This day showed you that power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just settles in and stays. You may notice tomorrow that certain urges are gone. The need to explain yourself. The urge to prove you're right. The habit of replaying conversations. That's not coincidence. That's residue from today's alignment. This Tuesday taught you how to walk forward without dragging unnecessary weight behind you. You didn't drop everything. You dropped enough. There's also a subtle strengthening that happens here. Not the loud kind. The kind that shows up later, when something tries to shake you and fails. When pressure meets you and finds no loose edges to pull at. That strength was built today, in moments that looked ordinary but weren't. In pauses, in restraint, in awareness. As night fully arrives, let it close the day gently. Don't rush to define what it meant. Don't force gratitude or conclusions. Just let it be what it was. Some days are meant to be lived, not analyzed. Their meaning reveals itself over time, in choices you make differently without realizing why. This Tuesday played out scene by scene, just as it needed to. And you didn't miss your part. You were present for it. That's what mattered. What comes after a day like this isn't noise, it's space. And space can feel unfamiliar when you've spent so long filling every gap with effort, explanation, or anticipation. This part isn't about what happens next on the outside. It's about how you carry what already happened. You may wake up after this Tuesday feeling almost the same, until you notice you're not. Your reactions are quieter. Your thoughts don't spiral as easily. Certain worries feel oddly irrelevant. That's the after effect. That's the imprint. There's a temptation now to look for confirmation, to ask someone if they felt it too, to scroll, to check, to compare. Resist that. This shift wasn't collective in the obvious sense. It was personal, tailored. What landed in you doesn't need agreement to be real. Some things are meant to stabilize privately before they ever show themselves publicly. You might also notice a subtle line forming inside you, a boundary that wasn't there before. Not a wall, a line, clear, calm, non-negotiable. You won't announce it. You won't defend it. You'll simply live from it. And people will adjust without fully understanding why. That's how real change works. It doesn't demand recognition. It creates it naturally. This part carries a strange confidence, but not the loud kind. It's the confidence of not needing to rush destiny, of understanding that what's meant for you doesn't require constant pursuit. Tuesday showed you that timing can meet you halfway when you stop forcing outcomes. That lesson stays with you longer than motivation ever could. There may still be unanswered questions, loose ends. That's fine. Closure doesn't always come as resolution. Sometimes it comes as peace with uncertainty. And that peace is stronger than answers, because it doesn't collapse when circumstances shift. As you move forward from here, remember this feeling more than the details. Remember how grounded you felt when you stopped resisting the day. Remember how clarity arrived when you weren't chasing it. That's the state you return to when things get loud again. This wasn't just a message about Tuesday. It was a reminder of how alignment feels when you let life unfold instead of wrestle it into shape. And now that you've felt it, even briefly, you'll recognize when it comes back. There's a moment after everything important has already happened, when life goes very quiet, almost as if it's giving you room to notice what changed. This part lives there, in the aftermath, in the space where nothing dramatic is required anymore. You may find yourself doing ordinary things and realizing they feel lighter, not exciting, lighter, like something heavy slipped off without asking for permission. This is where understanding deepens without effort. You don't sit down to reflect, it just happens. A thought drifts through and you catch it differently than you would have before. You don't cling to it. You don't spiral. You let it pass. That's new. That's evidence. This is how internal shifts reveal themselves. Not with declarations, but with ease. You might also sense a new patience forming. Not passive patience. Grounded patience. The kind that knows rushing wouldn't improve anything. The kind that trusts timing because it has already seen timing work once. Tuesday gave you proof, even if it was subtle. And once you've seen proof, even quiet proof, it's hard to unsee it. There's also a soft attachment here, from outcomes, from expectations you didn't realize were draining you. You still care, you're still invested, but you're no longer gripping things tightly out of fear they'll disappear. This part teaches you that what's real doesn't vanish when you loosen your hold. In fact, it often stays more willingly. If you notice moments of stillness now, don't rush to fill them. This stillness isn't empty. It's settled. It's the result of something clicking into place and no longer needing constant attention. Many people mistake this for boredom. It's not. It's balance. You may not talk about this shift. You may not even fully name it. That's okay. Some changes aren't meant to be explained while they're still integrating. They show up later, in how you choose differently, in how you walk away sooner, in how you don't abandon yourself to keep peace. This part isn't loud. It doesn't close with a statement. It simply leaves you standing a little more upright than before without forcing you to think about why. There's a steadiness now that doesn't come from certainty, but from familiarity with your own center. That's what this part is about. Not momentum, not answers. Stability. You may notice that even when something unexpected shows up, your first response isn't panic. It's assessment. You look before you react. You feel before you decide. That pause is new territory, and it changes everything quietly. You might catch yourself not engaging where you once would have, not out of avoidance, out of clarity. You recognize when something isn't worth your energy before it drains you. And there's no guilt attached to that recognition anymore. Just understanding. That's growth most people don't see because it doesn't announce itself. It simply removes friction from your life. This part carries a subtle confidence rooted in self-trust. Not ego, not certainty about outcomes. Trust in your ability to handle whatever comes next. Tuesday showed you that you don't need to anticipate every scenario to be prepared. Presence turned out to be enough. Awareness turned out to be enough. That realization stays. You may also feel a deeper compassion for yourself here. For how long it took. For the confusion. For the moments you thought you were behind when you were actually aligning. That softness matters. Harshness never accelerated growth. Patience did. And now you can feel the difference in your body, not just your thoughts. There's less urgency in this part. Less internal pressure to define the next chapter immediately. You're allowing life to meet you instead of sprinting toward it. That doesn't slow your progress. It stabilizes it. Things built from steadiness last longer than things built from panic. As this settles, you might realize that the biggest shift wasn't external at all. It was internal permission. Permission to move at your pace. Permission to choose peace without explanation. Permission to trust what feels right even when it isn't loud. This part doesn't push you forward, it anchors you. And from an anchored place, movement becomes intentional, not reactive. There's a point where a message stops guiding you and simply releases you back into your own life. This is that point. Not because everything has been said, but because you don't need to be held anymore. You're steady now, not fixed, not finished, just grounded enough to move forward without being pulled apart by every thought, every signal, every uncertainty. What this Tuesday really gave you wasn't instruction. It was confirmation. Confirmation that you don't need chaos to change. You don't need pain to grow. You don't need collapse to realign. You watched a day unfold with intention, and in doing so, you learned something subtle but permanent. Your awareness is stronger than your circumstances. And once that clicks, even briefly, it doesn't fully go away. You may find yourself remembering small details from this day later on, not the obvious ones, the quiet ones, the moment you didn't react, the breath you took instead of speaking, the decision you postponed and later felt grateful you didn't rush. Those moments didn't feel important at the time, but they were shaping you. They were teaching you how to stay intact while life keeps moving. There's a calm responsibility that comes with this kind of awareness. Not pressure. Responsibility. The kind that says, I know better now, so I move differently. You won't announce this to anyone. You won't explain it. You'll just notice that certain doors no longer tempt you, and certain distractions no longer hook you the way they used to. That's not loss. That's refinement. You're also allowed to rest from searching. Not forever, just for now. Searching implies something is missing. This day showed you that nothing essential is absent. Some things are simply arriving on their own schedule, and chasing them would only disturb the timing. Trusting that isn't passive. It's precise. It's choosing alignment over anxiety. If fear tries to return, it won't feel as convincing as it once did. You've seen how quickly perspective can shift when you stop feeding it. Fear thrives on reaction. You've learned restraint, and restraint doesn't mean suppression. It means discernment. Knowing what deserves your attention and what doesn't. As you move on from this message, don't carry it like a command. Carry it like a memory. A reference point you can return to when things feel rushed again. When you feel pressured to decide too quickly or explain too much. Remember how this day felt when you let it play out instead of trying to control it. Remember how clarity arrived without force. Nothing about this ending is dramatic, and that's intentional. Real shifts don't close with declarations. They close with quiet confidence, with the sense that you're capable of meeting whatever comes next without abandoning yourself in the process. You don't need to hold on to this moment tightly. It's already integrated. It will show up later, in ways you won't immediately connect back to today, in choices that feel easier, in reactions that never happen, in peace that doesn't need defending. This wasn't just a message you listened to. It was a state you stepped into. And now, you can step forward again, not searching, not forcing, not bracing, just moving scene by scene with trust in your own awareness.